All right, welcome everyone to another episode of the InnovateCT Podcast. I am your host, Nick Wagner Sr. Super excited to be joined by two inspirational humans today from the Connecticut Science Center, which full transparency, my family loves it and my kids love it. So I'm thrilled to be on with both of you. So Nick Villagra and Andrew Fotta, it rhymes with Yoda, that's how I remember that, from the Science Center are joining me today. And you know, gentlemen, I'll just quickly say, you know, the InnovateCT Podcast, we interview a variety of people from across Connecticut on the topics of education and innovation. And sometimes it's educators, sometimes it's you know, people that are working on maybe innovative platforms to help educators. And today we get the chance to talk about the Science Center, which I know a lot of educators, it's near and dear to their heart because they like to go there and their students like to go there. So I think it's great to have you both on today. So why don't we start with both of you introducing yourselves, and if one of you could just share a little bit about the Science Center. I'm going to guess most of my audience knows what the Connecticut Science Center is, but if you want to share a little bit about it, that would be great.
Cool. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, all right. I guess I'll introduce myself again. Hello. Again, I'm Nick Villagra. I'm a STEM educator here at the Connecticut Science Center. Coming at you from one of our labs. And so I've been working there since 2013. And you mentioned innovation. Innovation is in our mission statement, actually. It's, you know, the Science Center is basically just exists to inspire lifelong learning through innovative experiences. So yeah, we just teach kids science in an innovative way.
Love it. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, and I am Andrew Fotta. I'm also a STEM educator here at the Science Center. I've been here a little less than Nick, about 5+ years. And like Nick said, we go out and we teach kids science concepts. We go to schools, not so much now, but they come to us. We're doing a lot of virtual stuff now, obviously, and we're constantly innovating and creating new programs and coming up with new ways to teach children and get them inspired.
Yeah, and I appreciate you both joining today. So I want to talk a little bit about the Science Center, right, and why it's so important to both the state of Connecticut and the students of the state of Connecticut. We'll get into that, but I also want to get into a little bit of all the digital resources you now have. So unfortunately, as we all know, with COVID, people haven't been able to do everything that we've wanted to do because of restrictions from across the country. So it seems like the Science Center has pivoted, I think, in a really cool way to provide content in other ways to the people that want to visit, right? So more virtual visits, that maybe you haven't had some of those resources before. So share some of the virtual resources or digital content that you're now doing as part of the Science Center offerings, including, I want to hear all about the podcast you're launching.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so when obviously the restrictions started, we knew we had to transfer to a virtual programming, and we immediately started creating just content for our website because we were closed for most of the summer. And so we started creating just little videos. We call them Science at Play. We created STEM challenges. Just with what we had on hand, cameras and lights that we had already, we set up a little studio and all got together and we just started putting stuff out there so that we could stay relevant and stay connected to our audience who unfortunately couldn't be here. And then, we started creating virtual content, virtual classes. And, personally, I think this has all been somewhat of a blessing. As horrible as it's been, we've been able to do things that we've kind of had in the back of our mind for a while. And this kind of gave us the excuse to do it. And it's worked out great. I just had a school from Philadelphia yesterday. I taught a couple schools from Philadelphia. We've had schools in Georgia. I had a student come in from Turkey, the country. So we're able to expand our reach now. And I'm sure Nick can touch more on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, you said it great. I mean, just to add to that, the journey to get there was not easy. Like almost overnight. I don't think it's any exaggeration that we had to completely reimagine our roles, and we had certain skills that we had to learn in order to embrace this virtual world that we were thrust into. So like Andrew said, there have been some silver linings. we've been learning things that we didn't know before. We've gotten better at doing things in the virtual format. We've learned editing. We've learned animation. We've learned podcasting, live streaming, a lot of things that we just weren't doing before and that we can now continue doing. And hopefully when things get back to normal, we can have now a wider portfolio of both in-person things and hopefully continue to do virtual stuff.
Yeah, you bring up a great point that there has been, the pandemic has forced many organizations to innovate in ways they hadn't before. And you just gave a couple examples of how the Science Center has done it. And to your point, it actually makes your content and resources more accessible because not everyone can get to the Science Center in person. So now you're going to be able to help either families or kids or students that might not be able to get there in person virtually. So I think that's fantastic. So tell us about the podcast because our conversation kind of started how the two of you are launching a podcast for the Science Center, which is awesome. I've had the InnovateCT podcast for a few years now. I absolutely love podcasting. I think it's a great format. What is the name of the new podcast? Why did you create it, and when does it launch?
Okay, well, I guess we can wind the clock back a little bit and just talk about just sort of where the idea came from. So this all started when our marketing department, the head of our marketing department, asked me if can you talk to these radio DJs about the first story was an asteroid that was coming close to the Earth. It was WPLR. And I was nervous at first, radio DJs, what's this all about? I haven't done this before. It ended up being super fun. It was a blast. And then they kept having me on. And then it just occurred to me, it's we could kind of do something similar and just have nice informal science conversations amongst the educators and share that with our audience. And so that was sort of how we set off on this podcasting adventure. I will say it's a very early endeavor. We've now done just 2 episodes, so it's it's in its infancy, but we've been having a lot of fun doing it. Andrew, you can jump in and talk a little bit about some of the stuff we talked about on the podcast.
Yeah, I remember Nick coming to me and saying, let's do a podcast. And one of the nice things about working here is that we're sort of, I don't want to say we're given free reign to do things, but we do things maybe and test them out, and we're kind of encouraged to do that. We have a Dear Science segment where we answer questions that kids have asked, and we came up with a silly beginning for it. If you get a chance to check it out, it's pretty neat. And we have an educator stand up, and it's a 2 to 3 minute. We've been putting little animations in things, like Nick said. We've been learning lots of different skills. And so Nick said, let's do a podcast. And I said, sure. So we just went down to the lab and we put on some just labs, and we actually used camcorders that we had. So there is video of it, but it's just video of the wall because we just spaced it away from ourselves. Recorded the audio, stripped it out, and it was just Nick and I talking about the SpaceX launch, where they launched actual humans to the space station for the first time, and we just kind of ran with it, and we had a lot of fun with it. It was a lot of fun. I know we got a little silly, but we stayed on topic for the most part, and hopefully people enjoy it, and it gives a sort of a lighter side to things in these times, and but with a little science content that maybe you wouldn't hear about nationally. It wasn't a huge story; it was out there, but you maybe had to dig for it.
Who is the target audience for the podcast? So is it appropriate for school-age children? Is it for the parents of school-age children? Who could listen?
Everyone. Yeah. We try to keep it very simple and funny, and obviously clean. We're not, it was just fun. We just riffed on some things and just talked about sort of the whole endeavor and how it's amazing and great, and that these things are happening, and trying to get it out to, like I said, everyone. This is great for families. Yeah.
No, I think when we spoke, I think not only could families listen to it together or kids on their own, but I think it could also be a really cool thing for educators to maybe assign, hey, you're going to go listen to the Connecticut Science Center podcast as part of your homework assignment. and then write a reaction to what they learned in the podcast. So we're seeing more and more podcasts and videos as part of curriculums for educators, just because it a lot of times it can be a more interactive way for kids to learn. So I love that. So you mentioned the SpaceX launch, which is obviously a pretty exciting time for many people, especially that are space nerds. What are some of the upcoming topics that you have planned, or what's next for what you're going to talk about?
Well, the general theme is our take on high-profile current events in the science world. And just to quickly add that it's called the Down to a Science Podcast. It's the same name as our blog, the Down to Science blog, which you can find through the Connecticut Science Center website. It's the general format is about 10 to 15 minutes, and like Andrew said, we kind of riff and you made an excellent point that this is a way to kind of generate content that lives in sort of an ecosystem of educational content, and we've experimented that with our camp program, like our virtual camp programs, where we add links to all the science videos we've made, the blog posts we've written, and so that you can access this wealth of content that all kind of interlaces with each other. So what are we going to do next? It kind of depends on the high profile science news stories that come out. We are always on the hunt. What's an interesting topic that's in the news? I'm a space nerd, avowed space nerd, so I'm always looking out for the next big space story. So as soon as there's something major going on in the space world, I certainly want to do a podcast about that. But we don't want it to just be about space, of course. We want it to be more general than that. Luckily, we have a lot of people on our team who have different science interests, and so we like to have little guest educators come onto the podcast. We just recently did one about the world's oldest DNA at Discovery.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it can be really any science topic, whether it's meteorology, genetics, space, anything.
Yeah,
like that.
I love that, and I want to make one point before you jump in, Andrew. That we'll link to the Connecticut Science Center website, including the podcast in the show description, so people can go check it out. And I'm assuming they can get it on all the major podcast platforms.
So that is in the realm of our social media department. We do a lot of we're on Instagram, Facebook. I don't know the comprehensive list of platforms we're on, but you can find us easily enough on various podcasts.
Yeah. We kind of create it and then hand it off to them, and they do whatever they do with it. We're sort of we're just the talent, I guess you could say.
they do their magic. I get it.
That's right. Yeah. But yeah, I was thinking there's one on cuttlefish I'd like to do. I also like to branch out to sort of like the quirky, the kind of strange, the things that you might not hear about or think about. Just to make it fun. I think that's sort of like the first and foremost. It's supposed to be informative, but light and fun, and just keep it loose.
Yeah, there's always.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the to go back to how we can integrate with really our clientele is teachers. So, whenever we do these podcasts, there's we raise various science concepts that in a middle school curriculum might be relevant to what they're studying, and so just having that available to teachers because it's a fun format, and so kids hopefully will engage with it.
No, I think it's really important. One of the things that we do with Innovate Connecticut is we try to share best practices for educators, so educators don't have to recreate the wheel, right? We know educators work a lot of hours and spend money that's out of their own pocket to put curriculum together for their students. So the fact that they can come grab something that you have both done and integrate it into their curriculum and not have to worry about making it themselves or spend any money, I think it's fantastic. So I just think kudos to both of you. I want to highlight a few things about the Science Center before we close. So tell us, I know the Science Center is currently open. Do you want to give us an update on, what is it like to come to the Science Center in person? So where are we with that? And then maybe any fun, exciting news about the Science Center that you would like the guests, my audience to know about.
So we are currently open Wednesday through Sunday. We are closed Mondays and Tuesdays. We're open 10 to 4. You do need to go online to get your ticket, and they are time tickets. I think they're in 1 hour blocks. If you happen to have free guest passes, or we give coupons sometimes to students when we see them, which we haven't much, but you can just show up at the door with those. But you do need a time ticket if you're buying a ticket. And then temperature check and masks. And otherwise, it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but I don't think there's much closed in the Science Center. I know there were a few high-touch displays and things that were maybe taken down, but I really don't think it's many. So we're pretty much here and open for business. Yeah,
there's a lot to see. I mean, it's been pretty minimal in terms of the amount of exhibits that you can't. I mean, like there's an exhibit here and there that was high touch that we closed off, but for the most part, everything is there as it was. We do have a brand new traveling exhibit called Dinosaurs Around the World. It's awesome. You'll see in the lobby this gigantic animatronic Spinosaurus that scares children, but we make sure they feel great, and we cheer them up a little bit, and then they love it. So yeah, definitely check that out. That's running through, I think, until the fall.
September 5th or something like that, I think. Beginning of September. We also opened a new genomics exhibit, The Genome in Me. So that's on the 5th floor. That's all brand new as well. So all our floors are open now. We of course have the butterfly encounter, which is up and running. Again, it's a little more timed, so it's a little more safety protocols, but it's here. Come down and check it out.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I know I can't even tell you how many times we've been there with the kids, and they always enjoy it. So I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear you've got some new exhibits. I think that's one thing that a lot of the people that are returning guests like to see is different things that come through. So I think that's fantastic. So I just want to thank both of you for joining. It was great to finally connect with both of you and get you on the InnovateCT podcast. I know the Science Center it's such a great part of our education and innovation ecosystem here in the state. And I love the work that you all do, not only in person at the Science Center, but now all the virtual work as well. So again, we'll make sure to link Nick and Andrew to the Connecticut Science Center website, as well as the podcast, the brand new podcast that you've launched. And if people want to get in touch with you, I'm assuming they can do that through the Science Center website. If they through either of you, if they want to maybe give you an idea for a topic on the podcast.
Sure. Yeah, there's a few ways. I think if you go out on the website, you can contact the Science Center, and if you can't get in touch with us, they can put you in touch with us. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, thank you. I think this was a great discussion. Hopefully we get some people to go check it out, and hopefully we get some educators to use it as part of their curriculum as well. So thank you for making the time today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye.